Now, as we've been hearing in the last few minutes, the UK's inflation rate is down to 2%, exactly 2% according to new figures. It's the first time it's been at the Bank of England's target for nearly 3 years.
Well, let's get some reaction to that news now with Labour's Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Morning, Rachel Reeves. So 2%, that is surely good news.
Good morning. Well, I welcome the fact that inflation has returned to its target for the first time in nearly 3 years. But unlike Conservative government ministers, I'm not going to say that everything is fine. I'm not going to say that the cost of living crisis is over. I know that for many families and pensioners, the cost of living crisis is still acute because although inflation has returned to its target, it doesn't mean that prices are falling. It just means that they're going up at a lower rate than they were previously. And those higher food prices, higher energy prices, higher rents and mortgages, they are still very real for very many people and putting big pressure on family finances. And the choice really at this election is whether you want to carry on like that, 5 more years of chaos that we've seen under the Conservatives, or the Labour Party who have got a real plan for growth, because it is by growing the economy that we can make working families, people across our country, better off, and that is what I'm determined to do.
OK, you talk about growth. We'll move on to that in just a moment. How would you, first of all, keep inflation low?
We need to bring stability back to the economy. That is the most important thing. I worked as an economist at the Bank of England for many years before I became a Member of Parliament. I know how important it is to have an economy with stability locked in, because without that stability, you have what we've had for the last few years, and particularly at the time of the Conservative mini-budget that sent financial markets into turmoil and sent mortgage rates spiralling. That's why I've said that if I become Chancellor of the Exchequer in a couple of weeks' time, I would introduce a set of tough spending rules to get a grip on the public finances. And I will never put forward plans without saying where the money is going to come from. You can see that in our manifesto. Everything is fully costed and fully funded. I will never play fast and loose with the public finances, because when you do so, it is ordinary people who pay the price. We've seen that the last few years. I'm determined to do things differently. Bringing stability back to the economy is the first step towards the growth and prosperity in all parts of the country that we need to make working people better off.
Bearing that in mind, let me just remind you of what the Independent Institute for Fiscal Studies have said about your manifesto. They say, delivering genuine change will almost certainly also require putting actual resources on the table. Labour's manifesto offers no indication that there is a plan for where the money would come from to finance this. Just your response to that. Rachel Reeves, I think we might have just lost comms with you. Can you hear me?
I'm still here.
Okay. Shall I ask you that question again?
You said something about the Institute of Fiscal Studies.
Let me just remind you.
I've got an idea of the question you were...
Let me just say it so you know exactly what it is, because it's a very specific quote from them. They say, delivering genuine change will almost certainly require putting actual resources on the table. Labour's manifesto offers no indication that there is a plan for where the money is going to come from to finance this.
Well, first of all, bringing stability back to the economy is not about new money. That is about the spending rules, the fiscal lock that we would introduce. But we have put forward investment, a new national wealth fund endowed with just over £7 billion to leverage in private sector money. Because this can't all be about government doing more. It's about creating the conditions for businesses to invest. That's why we've said that we would reform the planning system to make it easier to build housing, build the energy and transport infrastructure that we need, the digital infrastructure as well, reform to the skills system so that businesses can recruit people with the skills they need, and so that working people can have a chance to prosper in the modern economy today. So we have put forward some resources, but the public finances are in a mess after 14 years of Conservative government, and I can't promise to turn that all around overnight. That is why our manifesto isn't focusing on new spending and new taxes. Our manifesto is seeking a mandate to grow the economy, because it is through growing the economy, through businesses investing, deciding to create jobs and wealth and prosperity in Britain, in our country, that will get our economy growing and will lift living standards whilst also having the money for our public services.
OK, so what does that mean for people who are watching this programme this morning? When you say grow the economy, when you talk about growth, what is your target? How long will it take?
Well, our number one mission of an incoming Labour government is to have the fastest economic growth in the G7 with good jobs and productivity growth in all parts of the country. But what does that mean for ordinary working people? It means earning more, having more of your own money in your pocket to choose to spend in the way that you want. It means thriving high streets, and it means good jobs, paying decent wages in all parts of the country, not in a narrow part of the country, but in the place, the town, the city, the village where you live. That is our mission, and we will achieve that through our plans around stability, investment and reform. If we can do those things, we can break out of the low-growth, high-tax doom loop that we've got in after 14 years of Conservative government. I know how to turn our economy round. And don't just take my word for it, take the word of business. We had 120 businesses back Labour's plans in the first week of the election campaign. And just last night, one of Britain's most successful entrepreneurs, John Cordwell, who set up Phones for You, has come out to endorse Labour's plans for growth. He was one of the biggest donors to the Conservative Party at the last election. He switched to Labour because he's seen the change in the Labour Party, our ambitions, our credible and our detailed plans to grow the economy. He's seen that we have changed, but he's also seen that the Conservative Party have changed and have become a high-tax, low-growth party. We need to break out of this, and that's what our plans will do.
But you have to admit, don't you, that growth is not completely under anybody's control, any government. There are things outside of your control that could happen if you were in power that would slow growth down or stop it completely. I'm thinking of wars, fuel prices, the weather. It's not something that you can guarantee, and you're sounding to me like someone who's offering to guarantee it.
Well, if you look at our performance in the last 14 years, so under the 14 years of Conservative government, if our economy had grown at just the average rate of similar industrialised economies, our economy would be £150 billion bigger today. That's worth £5,000 for every family in Britain, and it would mean £55 billion more to spend on our public services, like our schools and our National Health Service. So that's why growth is so important. And I know the government can say, you know, we've had a war, we've had a pandemic, we have had those things, but so have every other country as well. And they've managed to continue to grow while Britain has been stuck in the slow lane. And I want to get us out of that trap because there is so much potential in Britain. I go around the country and I see that potential in our fantastic businesses, our entrepreneurs, our working people. But that potential is not being unlocked today. And that's why the mandate we are seeking at this election is to grow the economy. Of course, that will require decisions of businesses big and small in all parts of our country, choosing to make investments here, choosing to create more jobs here. But the government role is to bring back that stability so that families can plan for the future in confidence and so that businesses can invest with confidence. Then that investment with our modern industrial strategy and our national wealth fund, and then reform of our economy so that we can get Britain building again, so that working people know that work always pays, and reform to our skills system. If we can do those things, I know we can realise the potential of our great country and we can get the growth that we need to make working people better off.
Will you be re-evaluating council tax bans?
No. And the tax plans that we have are all in our manifesto. We have the grey pages in our manifesto that set out our spending commitments, the first steps that we will take to reform and turn around our public services, and the tax changes that are needed to achieve that, like ensuring that non-DOMs pay their fair share of tax in Britain. I think it's a basic principle that if you make Britain your home, you should pay your taxes here, and under Labour you will, to crack down on tax avoidance so that everybody pays their fair share into the tax system, asking the energy giants who are making huge profits to contribute a bit more, and ensuring that private equity bosses who aren't paying proper taxes on their bonuses are taxed properly. Those are the tax changes that we will introduce. Nothing in our manifesto requires any other changes in taxation. And what we're seeking at this election is a mandate for growth. We're not looking to tinker with tax rates. My focus and incoming Labour government's focus will be on the growth that we need to turn our economy round.
So just to be totally clear on council tax bans, Keir Starmer yesterday refused to qualify that there might be a change on that. So you're saying there will be no change?
There's nothing in our manifesto, there's nothing in our plans that requires further changes. Of course, I'm not going to write 5 years of budgets before we've even got to a general election, before people have even voted in that general election. But we want to break out of this tax increasing world that we've been in under the Conservatives. The Tories have taken taxes to their highest level in 70 years, with 26 tax increases in this Parliament alone. I'm not in the business of tinkering with tax rates. I'm in the business of growing our economy to unlock the growth and prosperity that I know that we can return to in Britain. That is my focus. That is what our manifesto is all about, not more tax increases and tax changes, which is the Conservative way now.
Labour, your party has had to suspend one of your candidates after reports that he shared pro-Russian material online. I'm talking about Andy Brown, who's standing in Aberdeen North and Murray East. That's terrible timing for you, isn't it?
Well, I don't know this candidate, but I very much welcome the fact that he's been suspended. And it shows that the Labour Party has changed. We're not willing to tolerate people who don't share our values, don't share the values of the British public. And so that's why we've taken the swift action as soon as that information came to light to suspend the candidate. We're not going to stand by people who are sharing pro-Russian sentiment. That is not Labour values, and that's why he was quickly suspended from the Labour Party.
Rachel Reeves, thanks very much.